We got some breaking and welcome news coming out of the United States Supreme Court of all places. They have blessed the California congressional maps, allowing California's maps with the 5 new Democratic seats to go forward for the midterms. And they did it in a one-line order. And you can thank Justice Alito, of all people, for it because of something that he did just 2 months ago. Do I have your attention? You're on the Midas Touch Network and on Legal AF. I'm Michael Popak. The case is called Tangipa versus Newsom, Gavin Newsom, and with absolutely no dissent off of an application by the California Republican Party in which they were represented by a law firm founded by Donald Trump's head of the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice. Yes, Harmeet Dillon's law firm. No conflict there, folks, apparently, representing the California Republicans to challenge the maps, arguing that they were not trying to favor Democrats over Republicans. They weren't partisanly drawn. They were racially drawn, which would run afoul of the 14th Amendment and the Voting Rights Act as interpreted by the Supreme Court. But a 3-judge panel already looked at it and said there was almost no evidence to suggest this was racially motivated, as opposed to what Gavin Newsom told the world that they were doing. We're going to add 5 new Democratic seats to make up for the 5 new Republican seats in Texas. It was a call in response to Texas. That 3-judge panel made its ruling. The California Republicans went up to the United States Supreme Court. But the problem for them is 2 months ago, in a case challenging the Texas maps, a case which is at the United States Supreme Court, a case called Abbott versus the League of United Latin American Citizens, where the Democrats effectively were arguing, you can't make maps like that. You're making them racially based. The United States Supreme Court rejected it in December 4th of 2025. And Sam Alito, I believe, killed this current case and gave a win to California when he said the following in his concurrence, which was joined by Thomas and Gorsuch. First, he says, it is indisputable that the impetus for the adoption of the Texas map, like the map subsequently adopted in California, was partisan advantage, pure and simple. And if it's partisan advantage, blue versus red, instead of a racial advantage, black, brown versus white, then it's lawful. So you knew, or you should have known going into the case, that at least on the right, MAGA right, Alito, Thomas, and Gorsuch are okay with partisan drawing of maps. Now, 16 of the seats in California favor Latin candidates. Okay. First of all, Latin is not a race. Second of all, it's also mainly the Latins are also Democrat in California. And that was what was really going on. We weren't trying to get 16 Latin seats per se. The Democrats are trying to get 5 more Democrat seats. Even Alito on the far alt-right saw through that. So when that came out in December, we said, well, that blesses the California maps, and Alito, Gorsuch, and Thomas are all on board. So are we shocked then today that in a one-line order with no dissent, meaning this was effectively a 9-0 ruling, the petition to try to stop the maps in California from being used, the new maps, was denied? It won't take me long. I'll read the entirety of the order. Tangipa, who is a member of the Republican Congressional Committee, versus Newsom. The application for the writ of injunction pending appeal presented to Justice Kagan, because she sits over the Ninth Circuit, and by her referred to the court, is denied. That's it, folks. No one even thought to write anything. It was so obvious to this United States Supreme Court that, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. You can redraw maps all day long. You can do it all yourselves. As long as it's for partisan reasons, blue and red, and not black and brown, you're fine. Now, this will, I think, bake into place, because we're already here in February, almost March, bake into place the maps as they exist around the country. I know Florida and Indiana, Kentucky, they're all sort of scrambling, waiting to see what's going to happen. But what they're really waiting on is another case that has not yet been ruled, but may come out, I guess, any day now, called Calais, about Louisiana's redrawn maps. And with that guidance, you may or may not see more attempts to map make. But we're running out of time. The reason the California Republicans moved so quickly into court for the Supreme Court with an emergency application is they told the court, look, we got to have a ruling by February 9, because that's when ballots, people have to declare which districts they're going to run in. So you got to tell us by February 9. Okay, Feb 4. You're being told, stick the maps where the sun don't shine, so to speak. Texas keeps its +5. California neutralized it with its +5. New York is working on new maps right now. Should be a +2 or +3. So what we're trying to do is make sure that Trump and MAGA don't have an advantage even before the game starts by gaining another, let's say, +10 seats. Right? The fight and struggle for the House of Representatives is what we're talking about. There's 435 seats that are up for grabs, the entire chamber in November. You need 218 to get majority and to govern, right? And so if they already have +10 based on new maps, we got to overcome the +10 before we even start the game. It's like going into a basketball game, looking up on the scoreboard, game hasn't even started. You're sitting in your seats, you're grabbing your popcorn, and your home team is down 10 points. How did that happen? And it's not going to happen. So I wanted to report on it. It's a breath of fresh air coming out of the United States Supreme Court. I'm not sure every ruling coming out in the next month or two or a week or two I'm going to be as giddy about, but certainly let's celebrate this win and this victory. Till my next report, I'm Michael Popak. You're on the Midas Touch Network. By the way, take a moment while we're all here together, hit the subscribe button for Midas Touch, come over to Legal AF YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button there as well. And I've got a Substack, yes I do, for Legal AF, and we're running a 35% off sale on annual memberships, Legal AF Substack. I do 2 lives a day over there. We've got a dozen contributors. Law and politics is covered like in no other place than Legal AF Substack.